Hey everyone, my name's Greenhouse Girl, and I'm in the process of setting up a website called Zen Tree Botanicals, and I'm growing Kratom Seedlings, Mitragina speciosa, and I'm in my indoor greenhouse today, and I just wanted to show you my seedlings. These were all started as these little seeds here. I've got a couple more growing there. These were just planted about a month ago, so just to show you how tiny they are. And all my other ones here, these were just some leftover seeds, so these weren't as prolific as these other guys here. I've got 50 plants, so they started as seed. I purchased the seeds from M2 Seeds, which they're not in business anymore, but you can, it's not true about the viability of the seeds. As long as you get seeds that the flower pod was fertilized, they are viable. I want to see, I had about 98% germination rate when I first got them, which was back in October. So these plants are 6 months old. Showing you the setup here. These are under the lights. Kind of got them spaced out because some of these have some big leaves. Now that they're 6 months old, the germination rate's probably down about, I don't know, 75, 80%. But still pretty good. So as long as you get viable seeds, they will sprout, and they're easy to sprout. I can go into that another time. I'm just kind of showing you the process. Obviously, they start very tiny. I've got the weird thing about the seeds, when I germinated them, some of them germinated within a couple days. And then as I was transplanting ones that were a month and a half old, I had new ones germinating next to those. So that's why I have some pretty big ones here, like that guy. About 14 inches tall, a couple of these. And they've had some of their leaves trimmed up. And then I have some little guys, like that guy in the corner back here. So I have different sized ones, they're all different. These were supposedly green Malay, although from what I've read, there's really no such thing as kratom strains. There's a kratom plant. They grow in different environments, depending on what light they receive in soil and all that. They just have different expressions as far as vein color, leaf color, all that. But as you can see, most of these have red veins. I'll let the camera focus on that. Some have green with red veins. I don't know if you can see that one. I'm kind of in the shadow. Some have almost like a purple leaf and red vein, but all of these, they're supposedly a green Malay. So again, I don't believe strains exist. I think there's a kratom plant. They express themselves differently depending on the conditions they're grown in, from what I've read. But just kind of wanted to show you beautiful plants. They're not that hard to grow. True, when they're seedlings, real tiny like that, they do take a lot of care. And basically, it's just to make sure that they don't get fungus that kills them. You have to air them out, and I found a mixture of diluted peroxide, kind of every other watering, along with a kelp and fish emulsion spray, because I use a sterile seedling mix for the seedlings. Works pretty good. As far as the soil that these guys have grown in, I have tested all sorts of different soils. In fact, I have some growing in just plain earthworm castings, which most plants would not. This guy, in fact, right here, is grown in just plain earthworm castings. Now, if you've ever used plain earthworm castings, it's soupy, it's muddy, it doesn't drain, it kind of gets compacted. This plant is showing no signs. Let me get no signs of nutrient deficiency. About 8 inches tall. And it just has some rocks on the top. I put stones on top. I actually put some cocoa coir, and then I put some rocks. The reason I do that is they like high humidity. Like right now the temperature is 80 degrees and it's about 66% humidity. I just was running the humidifier. It's a little low. I try to get it a little higher than that, but I'll get short of breath if it's too hot in here. It's too hard to talk. But as far as soil mixes go, they're not super picky. I've tried all sorts of different mixes. But basically, I make my own soil mixes. I don't like bagged soils. I tend to have problems with pests. So I make a mix that's either cocoa, earthworm castings, and perlite, or I have been mixing another mix. I've been mixing some peat moss in with that. So cocoa, peat moss, some pine bark, just to hold the moisture. And these plants love moisture. As you can see, I watered these the other day, just yesterday. Most plants you wouldn't want to leave sitting in water, but these guys, they don't mind it at all. I wouldn't leave them in a lot of water, but I basically have to water them every day in these small pots. But this is just a quick video kind of to show you. I'm in the process of setting up a website, Zen Tree Botanicals. Should be up and running here soon. But just so you know, how if you haven't grown Mitragina before, or if you're not familiar with the plant, with that pretty vein on that one. Just wanted to show you that. The pretty red vein against the lighter green. Of course, they started out as a seed. Most people buy clones. I do have 2 clones that I started out with, but these are all from seed. And they push up the terminal bud, or miter sheath. That is how they think Mitragina speciosa got its name, is that the terminal bud here resembles a bishop's miter. I've read other theories, but that's the terminal bud. That's where all the new leaves are formed. So when that fills up with new leaves, it opens. There's some. Let me get you a picture here. Sorry. Tried to get everything lined up. There's 2 new leaves. There's the miter sheath underneath. And that pushes up 2 new leaves. And you get another node. You get another miter sheath. If you look inside, there'll be another miter sheath. It's kind of like a... There's the other miter sheath in the middle. And that'll push up and do 2 leaves. This guy's kind of cool as they get older, or if you top them where you cut. Like if I were to cut this right now, if I were to snip right there and prune it, it's going to set out, instead of 1 shoot, it'll set out 2. And if you see this guy, he's putting out 6 leaves. Usually they're putting out 2, but as they get older, they're going to put out 6 leaves. So that miter sheath opened, and there are 6 new leaves. These 2 are together. And you got the 2 bigger ones, and if you look, there's new miter sheaths in there. Now if you were to snip these, I've topped a couple of them. I've topped this guy. So he's going to set out 2 new shoots. Kind of like that. And also you start getting, this is called side branching. Usually you just have the 2 leaves that come off of the stem. Here we've got 2 more. That's branching. Eventually you can take clones off those. I will take clones off of these eventually. So that's kind of cool. I wanted to show you that. Another thing, when I transplanted, this was one of my biggest plants, unfortunately. His name was Big Bubba. And I don't know what happened. He was either left, sometimes after I transplant him, I'll put him in a humidity dome. I believe he was either left in there too long or something happened. He lost all his leaves. Actually happened to a couple of them. Well, if you look, you could just give up on it and think, oh, it's a stick, it's gone. But if I can let it focus there, you'll see there's still green there at the top. And it's actually starting to put out 2 little leaves on the side. Another example is the same, another one happened, same thing. I usually keep those out of the light, and I had a humidity tent around it. It's put out 2 new leaves. So again, it was a stick. Let me put it down so you can see. Thought it was a stick, thought it was dead. It's put out 2 new shoots. These plants are pretty resilient, so don't give up on them. As long as you see green, they're good to go. I didn't want to make a real long video, but I wanted to make about a 10-minute video and just kind of do an introduction. I'd like to do some more in-depth videos, but I just wanted to do one, show you these pretty leaves. They were recently treated for spider mites. That's kind of a sign of spider mites there. Inside, when I keep my clones outside in the summer, it's real hot and humid here for about 6 months out of the year, and they love it. These will take off. In fact, I'm getting ready to transplant them. But in the winter, I have to keep them indoors. They like high humidity and high heat. That's another cool little thing I wanted to show you. I left this guy under the light so you can see. There's his main stem in the middle. I don't want to disturb these too much. And he's putting out 2 new plants off to the side, which I'll eventually be able to clone those. Hopefully you can get a view of that. But these are trees, so if you look at that stem, it's starting to look like bark and wood. And we got those 2 little guys off to the side here. There's one there, and there's one on this side. I don't know if you can see it. I know there's a leaf in the way. Let me see if I can't turn that. My clones were doing that, and if I would have known then what I know now, I would have taken clones off those, because now those are really long, and when I have to move them indoors, they pull on, get stuck on the doors and all that. But anyways, with the pests, outdoors they don't seem to get pests. I never had any problems. I always used to check them. Sometimes I'd spray down the leaves just with water. Indoors, of course, there's no natural predators so I have gotten fungus gnats and I've gotten spider mites, but I mean, they're no worse for the wear. Those are some big leaves on a 6-month-old plant. Trying to put my hand there for reference. It's a pretty good sized leaf. Some of these are even bigger. This guy had huge leaves, but unfortunately I let him dry out before I transplanted him, and that's kind of what happens. The leaves crinkle down, and these will probably eventually fall off, but I'm not forcing it. That's just from damage. I didn't get to water him on time. He was in a smaller pot. I don't know if you can see how big this guy is. He's pretty big. That's why he's been transplanted. He's in a bigger pot now. But that's what happened. I know a lot of leaves have been trimmed off along the way, the stem there, but they will grow new leaves. Actually, it'll put out 2 new leaves. But he's recovering. Eventually these leaves will fall off. They're just damaged. Sometimes they do that when they get dried out. So I have to be careful. A lot of them I keep them in these tubs here. Most plants, you don't want to let them sit in water. These guys, really, you can't overwater. They don't seem to care. Like I said, I'm growing some in pure earthworm castings. That's unheard of. That was just an experiment, but that's what this guy is. There's several of them. But again, just an introduction. Greenhouse Girl. I will have a website up here soon. Zen Tree Botanicals. It'll be a grow guide and hopefully a store soon here, where I might be able to sell some of these. I'm also planning on taking some cuttings off of these, and these will be cuttings off an actual mother plant, not clones of clones of clones. Nothing against clones. My first 2 plants, I still have them. I'll do a video on those too. They're nice, but we want genetic diversity. So I'm just kind of letting you see all my plants in the setup. I've got fans. I've got a humidifier. Again, you want to keep it warm and humid. I'm glad I had this little greenhouse. It was $45. It helped keep the the humidity and the warmth in here. These are under T5 right now, which I don't think that's ideal, but it keeps it warm in here, and that's what I had on hand. My bigger ones under the LEDs, I think it's too much. It seems to burn the leaves no matter how high I put it. But anyways, just an introductory video, letting you see my plants. Again, these are Kratom Mitragina speciosa. My name's Greenhouse Girl. And have a good day. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching.